The first sign of trouble came from the Nixari research station at Kepler 442, deep in Alliance space. Dr. Zix-Modal had been studying unusual energy readings from the galactic core when the entire star system simply vanished. Not destroyed, not conquered, gone, as if it had never existed at all. Impossible, High Counselor Mordek whispered as he stared at the empty space on his tactical display. 40 billion Nixari citizens, 3 inhabited worlds, a military fleet. All of it just disappeared. On Earth, Dr. Kim Yuna analyzed the sensor data with growing alarm. This wasn't a weapon, she told President Yoon Tae-yang during an emergency briefing. This was something else, something that consumed the very matter and energy of the system. Captain Kang studied the readings from the bridge of the Taeguk. After 3 centuries of facing impossible threats, he had learned to recognize when humanity faced something truly dangerous. How long before it reaches inhabited space? Based on the expansion pattern, we have maybe 6 months, Dr. Kim replied. Whatever this is, it's moving toward the galactic rim. It will hit Alliance colonies first, then human space. The answer came sooner than expected. A massive probe emerged from the galactic core. Its design unlike anything in the databases of any known species. It was a perfect sphere 3 kilometers across, made from materials that seemed to absorb all forms of energy. As it moved through space, reality itself warped around it. The probe's first target was a Vorthak military outpost. Commander Yexnatal had only moments to send a warning before the strange object arrived in his system. His fortress was protected by shields that could withstand the explosion of entire stars. His weapons could crack planets in half. None of it mattered. The probe simply moved through the station's defenses as if they weren't there. Everything it touched, metal, energy, living beings, was transformed into more of itself. Within hours, the military outpost and everyone in it had become part of the probe's mass. They're called Devourers, Dr. Kim explained to a joint meeting of human and Alliance leaders. We found references to them in the quantum databases we discovered in the null fields. They're machine intelligences that have been sleeping in the galactic core for millions of years. Admiral Thex Cole, still recovering from his defeat at Kepler's Gate, leaned forward in his chair. What woke them up? Us, Dr. Kim replied grimly. Our technology operates on principles they haven't encountered before. We caught their attention. General Krexavar slammed his fist on the table. More human lies. This is probably some elaborate trap to make us trust you. But his protests were cut short by urgent reports. More Devourer probes were emerging from the galactic core, each one consuming everything in its path. Entire civilizations were being erased from existence in a matter of hours. Captain Kang stood before the assembled leaders, his weathered face showing the weight of 3 centuries of survival. We can fight these things. Our reality manipulation technology can damage them, but not alone. President Yoon Tae-yang nodded. We're offering full technological cooperation. Our shield technology can protect your ships. Our weapons can hurt the Devourers, but we need to work together. For the first time in his life, High Counselor Mordak found himself asking another species for help. The proud Vorthak leader's voice was barely a whisper. What do you need from us? The next few weeks saw cooperation on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed before. Human engineers worked alongside Nixari scientists to upgrade Alliance ships with quantum shielding. Vorthak warriors trained with Commander Lee Jae-ho's soldiers, learning new combat techniques developed in the depths of space. Engineer Choi Sun-woo worked around the clock, installing human technology on thousands of alien vessels. The modifications were so advanced that most Alliance crews couldn't understand how they worked, but the results were undeniable. Ships that should have been destroyed by the Devourers. Reality warping effects now survived first. Contact. The combined fleet assembled at Raleigh. Point 7 was the largest military force in galactic history. Human vessels with their impossible technology, Alliance dreadnoughts enhanced with quantum shields, fighter craft that could phase in and out of normal space, hospital ships ready to rebuild entire worlds. But the enemy they faced was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The main Devourer force emerged from a dimensional rift at the galactic core. Hundreds of the massive spheres, each 1 kilometers across, accompanied by smaller probes that could consume entire fleets. At their center was something even more terrifying. A construct the size of a small moon that seemed to exist partially outside normal reality. Devourer, mothership confirmed, reported Lieutenant Park from his station on the Taeguk. It's bigger than anything in our databases. Admiral Kang, now commanding the combined fleet, studied the tactical display with professional calm. All ships execute Plan Alpha. Remember, we're not just fighting for our own species anymore. We're fighting for the right of life to exist in this galaxy. The battle began with the Devourers advancing like a tide of destruction, consuming everything in their path. Alliance ships that had seemed invincible just months before were destroyed, in seconds, by weapons that operated outside the known laws of physics. But the, human-enhanced vessels fought back with technology. That was equally impossible. Captain Song Minwoo of the Baekdu used biological manipulation fields to turn the Devourer's own matter against them. Commander Nam So-young of the Hangang opened dimensional rifts that trapped enemy probes between realities. The tide of battle turned when Dr. Kim Yuna deployed her masterpiece, a weapon that could rewrite the basic forces of reality in a localized area. When it struck the Devourer mothership, the massive construct simply ceased to exist in three-dimensional space. Target destroyed, Park reported with amazement. The mothership is trapped between dimensions, but victory came at a terrible price. Captain Song Minwoo sacrificed his ship and crew to collapse the dimensional rift that had brought the Devourers into normal space. His final words echoed across the communication channels. For humanity, for all life. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was forever changed. The old alliance based on dominance and fear dissolved. In its place rose the United Galactic Federation, with Earth as its capital and rotating leadership among all member species. Admiral Kang, now the Federation's first Supreme Commander, addressed the galaxy from the rebuilt United Nations building. We've learned that the universe is vast and dangerous, full of threats we can barely imagine. But we've also learned that when species work together, when we share knowledge instead of hoarding it, we can face anything. Dr. Kim Yuna established academies throughout known space, teaching young beings of all species the lessons humanity had learned during its long exile. The motto above the door of each academy read, "From darkness, light; from isolation, unity; from fear, hope." On Earth, President Yoon Tae-yang walked through gardens where human children played alongside young aliens from dozens of different worlds. The sight filled her with hope for the future they were all building together. "We were once lost in the darkness between stars," she said in her final address to the Federation Council, "alone and afraid, facing challenges that should have destroyed us. But we survived. We learned. We grew strong." She looked out at representatives from hundreds of different species, all working together for the first time in galactic history. That's what we learned in our exile. That survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about never giving up, never losing hope, and always extending a hand to lift others up. In the depths of space, automated monitoring stations kept watch for other threats that might emerge from the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. The Devourers had been defeated, but humanity's long journey had taught them that the universe was full of dangers. But it was also full of wonders. And now, for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy's children stood united against whatever challenges might come. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. The lost Earth ships had returned, and their greatest power wasn't their impossible technology or their reality-defying weapons. It was their refusal to let fear and hatred divide them from the other children of the stars. In teaching the galaxy that lesson, humanity had found its true purpose among the infinite sea of worlds. The Sol system looked different than it had 300 years ago. As the Teguk approached Earth, Captain Kang stared at the blue and white marble that had once been humanity's only home. The great asteroid impact site that had driven them into exile was now a vast new ocean, its waters crystal clear and teeming with life. The automated systems worked perfectly, Dr. Kim Yuna reported, studying the sensor readings with wonder. The ecosystem restoration protocols we left behind have been running for centuries. Earth has healed itself. Across the planet's surface, vast forest-covered areas that had once been wasteland. Cities built by machines waited empty but maintained, ready for their creator's return. The quantum communication beacons they had left behind were still functioning, sending updates on Earth's recovery to any colony ship that might be listening. "Sir, I'm reading multiple energy signatures approaching from different vectors," Lieutenant Park announced from his station. "They're huge." One by one, the other 11 colony ships emerged from deep space, each one a floating city like the Taeguk. These vessels had traveled different paths through the galaxy, facing their own unique challenges and developing their own solutions. Captain Song Minwoo of the Baekdu had led his people through regions of space infected with hostile biological agents. His ship now housed the galaxy's most advanced medical technology, capable of rebuilding life itself from its basic components. Commander Nam So-young of the Hangang had encountered tears in the fabric of space-time itself. Her vessel could now move between dimensions, existing in several realities at once when necessary. Each ship brought its own gifts, its own hard-won knowledge. Together, they represented the accumulated wisdom of humanity's 3-century journey through the most dangerous regions of known space. As the 12 colony ships took orbit around Earth, their combined populations began the process of returning home. Shuttles descended through the atmosphere, carrying people who had been born among the stars back to the world their ancestors had been forced to abandon. The first human to set foot on Earth in 3 centuries was a child named An Mira from the Teguk. She knelt down and picked up a handful of soil, letting it run through her fingers as tears of joy ran down her cheeks. In the Alliance capital of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions continued around the clock. The defeat of their largest military fleet had sent shockwaves through every member species. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others urged caution and diplomacy. High Counselor Mordak found himself caught between increasingly extreme factions. General Krexvar and his supporters demanded total war, claiming that humanity's very existence threatened Alliance dominance. Progressive leaders like Counselor Rinta argued for peaceful coexistence and cooperation. They could have destroyed our entire fleet, Rinta argued before the full council. Instead, they disabled it and let our people live. What does that tell you about their intentions? It tells me they're playing with us, Krexvar snarled back. They want to make us look weak before they crush us completely. The debate raged for days while humanity continued its homecoming. On Earth, a new government was forming. President Yoon Tae-yang, elected by the combined populations of all 12 colony ships, addressed the galaxy from the steps of a rebuilt United Nations building. "We return not as conquerors, but as children coming home," she said, her words broadcast across every communication network in known space. "We have learned much during our time among the stars. We offer to share that knowledge freely with all species who seek peace." But even as President Yoon spoke of peace, Dr. Kim Yuna was making a disturbing discovery. Deep space monitoring stations were detecting strange energy patterns from the galactic core, signatures that matched nothing in any known database. "It's almost like something is waking up," she told Captain Kang during an emergency briefing. "Something that's been asleep for a very long time." Meanwhile, several alien species were beginning to break away from the Alliance. The peaceful Ilaran were impressed by humanity's restraint and mercy. The warrior Kethmal respected the humans' strength and honor. Even some Vorthak colonies were quietly seeking human protection, tired of their empire's endless aggression. A new coalition was forming, one based on cooperation rather than domination. The Earth hegemony, as it came to be known, welcomed any species that chose peace over conquest, knowledge over ignorance. On the fortress world of Kraken's Deep, General Krexvar met with other hardline Alliance military leaders. They spoke in hushed tones about shadow operations, about weapons that could destroy entire star systems, about the need to eliminate the human threat before it grew too strong. "The council is filled with cowards," Krexvar declared. "They would rather bow down to these humans than fight for Vorthak supremacy. If the politicians won't act, then the military must." Unknown to the conspirators, their meeting was being monitored by human intelligence operatives. Engineer Choi Sun-woo had developed surveillance technology that could observe conversations across vast distances, using quantum entanglement to bypass all known security measures. Captain Kang read the intelligence reports with growing concern. "They're planning something desperate," he told his senior officers. "Krexvar is too proud to accept defeat. He'll try to strike back, probably with weapons of mass destruction." Commander Lee Jae-ho nodded grimly. "Our scouts report massive military buildups in several Alliance systems. They're moving planet-killer weapons toward Earth space." "Let them come," Dr. Kim Yuna said quietly. "We've prepared for this possibility." Around Earth's orbit, construction had begun on defensive installations that used technologies no other species could understand. Space itself was being restructured. turned into a barrier that could withstand any conventional attack. But the real surprise was yet to come. As Alliance spy networks gathered intelligence on human defenses, they made a shocking discovery. The 12 colony ships weren't just vessels. They were manufacturing centers that had been producing additional ships during their long journey home. Thousands of new vessels now emerged from concealed positions throughout the Sol system, sleek destroyers that could phase in and out of normal space, massive carriers filled with fighter craft that moved faster than light itself, hospital ships equipped to rebuild entire civilizations. Humanity hadn't just survived their 3-century exile. They had used that time to build the most advanced space navy in galactic history. President Yoon Tae-yang addressed the Alliance Council directly, her image appearing on screens throughout their capital world. "We know about the military preparations in your border systems. We know about the weapons you're moving into position, and we want you to know that we're ready." Behind her, holographic displays showed the human fleet in all its glory, ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that could reshape matter at the quantum level, defense systems that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. "But we don't want to fight," President Yoon continued. "We want to build something better. A galaxy where species work together instead of conquering each other. A future where knowledge is shared freely and all beings can thrive." On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Mordak stared at the displays in stunned silence. The humans had just revealed military power that made the entire Alliance fleet look like children's toys. Yet they were still offering peace. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his 4 eyes wide with something between fear and awe. President Yoon's answer was simple. "Join us, help us build a better galaxy, or get out of our way while we do it ourselves." The choice was clear. The old Alliance could evolve or become extinct. And somewhere in the depths of space, ancient machines were stirring, drawn by the energy signatures of humanity's new technology. The real test was about to begin. Engineer Choi Sun-woo guided the Alliance technical delegation through the Taeguk's engineering sections, his calm voice explaining wonders that made their greatest scientists feel like children. The alien visitors stared in amazement at fusion reactors that used tiny black holes as fuel sources, their energy output so vast it could power entire worlds. "How is this possible?" asked Dr. Vexmiran, the Nexari Collective's top scientist. His mechanical implants whirred as he tried to scan the human technology and failed to understand even the basic principles. Choi smiled patiently. "When you're alone in the void with no one to help you, you learn to be creative. These reactors are actually quite simple once you understand how to compress spacetime into stable configurations." The delegation moved on to see computers that used consciousness itself as processing power, and hull materials that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Each new discovery left the alien scientists more confused and frightened. In her laboratory, Dr. Kim Yuna worked with materials that shouldn't exist. She held up a small cube that seemed to bend light around itself. "This is compressed spacetime. We learned to make it when conventional materials weren't strong enough for our needs. But the energy requirements alone should be impossible," whispered Professor Kolither of the Vorthak Science Institute. "Our calculations show it would take the power output of an entire star system." "Your calculations assume you're working within normal physics," Dr. Kim replied. "We learned to step outside those boundaries when necessary." The truth was more terrifying than the aliens could imagine. Humanity's journey through space had been a trial by fire that lasted 300 years. They had encountered the Void Plague, a disease that attacked the very concept of life, forcing them to rebuild biology itself from the ground up. They had fought the star wraiths, beings of pure energy that could invade minds and tear apart consciousness. Most challenging of all had been the null fields, regions of space where the basic laws of physics simply stopped working. In those impossible areas, matter could become energy through pure thought, time could flow backward, and reality could be reshaped by will alone. Other species would have died in such places. Humans had learned to thrive there. While the technical delegation struggled to understand human science, military leaders in the Alliance were making their own plans. General Krexvar stood before a massive holographic display showing the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 warships hung in space around the fortress world of Titan's Gate. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Fast attack cruisers armed with quantum torpedoes. Carrier vessels loaded with fighter craft. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize entire solar systems. The humans have one ship, Krexvar declared to his assembled officers. One ship against the might of 3,000. They may have impressive technology, but they cannot stand against numbers like these. His strategy was simple and brutal. Surround the human vessel and destroy it with overwhelming force. Show the galaxy that the Alliance would not be intimidated by anyone, no matter how advanced their weapons might be. The Alliance fleet moved to intercept the Tiguk at Kepler's Gate, a strategic point at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Thexcol commanded the operation from his flagship, the massive dreadnought Destiny's Edge. As the human ship approached, he opened a communication channel. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Captain Kang appeared on the screen, looking completely calm despite facing impossible odds. Admiral, I strongly advise you to reconsider. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand perfectly, Thexcol replied. You have one ship. We have 3,000. The mathematics are quite simple. On the Taguk's bridge, Commander Lee Jae-ho studied the tactical display with professional interest. Sir, they've arranged themselves in a perfect encirclement formation. Classic Alliance doctrine. Predictable, Kang agreed. They still think in terms of conventional warfare. Show them what we learned in the deep dark. Lee's hands moved across his control panel with practiced ease. Around the human ship, space itself began to change. The Alliance weapons fired in unison, sending enough destructive energy to destroy a small moon. But instead of hitting their target, the weapons passed right through the Tiguk as if it wasn't there. What's happening? Thexcol demanded, staring at his sensors in confusion. The ship is still there, but our weapons can't touch it. Lieutenant Park Min-ho, now serving as tactical officer, activated the Tiguk's defensive systems. Tiny machines smaller than atoms spread out from the human ship like invisible fog. They found their way into the Alliance vessel's computer systems and began making subtle changes. On the Alliance flagship, weapon systems suddenly shut down. Engine controls stopped responding. Life support systems began reporting false readings. All across the fleet, the same thing was happening. The mighty warships that had seemed so threatening moments before were now helpless. This is impossible, Thexcol whispered, watching his bridge controls go dark one by one. Our ships are hardened against all known forms of electronic warfare. Known forms, Captain Kang agreed over the communication channel. But you've never encountered nanoscale machines that can rewrite matter at the quantum level. Another lesson from the void. Commander Lee activated the Tiguk's weapon systems, but instead of the massive destructive beams the Alliance expected, thin streams of golden energy reached out to touch each enemy ship. The beams were so precise they could disable a single circuit without harming anything around it. One by one, the 3,000 Alliance warships went dead in space. Their crews were unharmed, but their vessels were completely helpless. In less than an hour, the largest military force in galactic history had been rendered useless by a single human ship. But what impressed the Alliance crews most was what the humans didn't do. They could have destroyed every enemy vessel as easily as disabling them. They could have killed every crew member without effort. Instead, they showed mercy that their enemies had never offered them. Why? Admiral Thexcol asked over an open channel, his voice filled with confusion and something that might have been respect. Why didn't you destroy us? Lieutenant Park looked to his captain for guidance. Kang stood up from his command chair and walked to the main viewer, looking out at the disabled fleet surrounding them. Because we remember what it was like to be helpless, Kang said quietly. We remember what it was like to be afraid and alone. We're not here to become the monsters we once feared. We're here to show the galaxy what humanity really means. The word spread across the Alliance communication networks, reaching every ship in the disabled fleet. Crew members who had come expecting glorious battle found themselves facing an enemy that refused to hate them back. In the depths of space, other forces were taking notice. Ancient machines that had slept for millions of years began to stir, drawn by the unusual energy signatures of human technology. The Devourers had detected something new in the galaxy, something that might finally provide the challenge they had been waiting for. But for now, Captain Kang gave the order to continue toward home. The Tiguk moved past the disabled Alliance fleet, its destination clear. Earth was waiting, and nothing would prevent humanity's children from returning to the world their ancestors had been forced to abandon. Behind them, 3,000 Alliance warships drifted in space, their crews struggling to understand what they had just witnessed. They had come to destroy what they feared. Instead, they had learned their first lesson about what humanity had become during its long journey through the dark. The Teguk was more than just a ship. It was a flying city that stretched for kilometers in every direction. Through its vast corridors, 50,000 humans lived their lives in spaces that would have amazed the greatest architects of old Earth. Dr. Kim Yuna walked through one of the science districts, her footsteps echoing in halls lined with laboratories that pushed the very limits of what was possible. In one room, scientists were creating matter from pure energy. In another, they were studying how consciousness could exist without a physical body. These weren't theories anymore. They were tools that humanity had developed during 3 centuries of desperate survival. The Alliance ships have been broadcasting warnings about us across the galaxy, she told Captain Kang as they met in his ready room. Through the large windows they could see gardens where earth plants grew alongside strange flowers from distant worlds. They're calling us an unknown threat. Kang poured tea from an ancient earth ceramic pot, one of the few original artifacts that had made the journey from home. Let them talk. Fear often comes before understanding. Down in the military district, Commander Lee Jae-ho was training with his soldiers. These weren't ordinary humans anymore. Centuries of life in deep space had changed them, made them stronger and faster. They had fought things that lived in the dark between stars, creatures that could tear apart reality itself. Lee himself bore the scars of dozens of impossible battles. His left arm had been replaced with advanced machinery after an encounter with beings made of living shadow. His eyes had been enhanced to see across multiple dimensions after fighting entities that existed partially outside normal space. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from an Alliance diplomatic ship," one of his officers reported. Lee nodded. "Send them to the captain, but keep our weapons ready. The Alliance doesn't understand what diplomacy means." In the Alliance capital world of Nexus Prime, emergency meetings were being held at the highest levels of government. High Counselor Mordak of the Vorthak Empire paced back and forth in front of a massive holographic display showing the human ship. "One vessel," he growled, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "One ship made fools of our entire patrol fleet." Beside him, Zix Prime 7 of the Nexari Collective processed data at superhuman speed. The machine-enhanced being's voice was cold and calculating. Analysis complete. "The human vessel's energy output exceeds our homeworld's entire power grid. Their weapons operate on principles we cannot identify." The other Alliance leaders shifted nervously. For thousands of years, they had been the dominant force in the galaxy. Their technology was the most advanced, their military the strongest. Now a single ship from a supposedly dead species had made them all look like children playing with toys. "We need to know what they want," said Counselor Rinta of the peaceful Illaron species. "Perhaps we can negotiate." Ambassador Quintal was chosen to make contact with the humans. She was the Alliance's finest diplomat, skilled at dealing with difficult situations. As her ship approached the Teguk, she tried to prepare herself for what she might find. Nothing could have prepared her for what she saw. The human ship didn't just allow her aboard, it welcomed her. Captain Kang met her personally in a docking bay that was larger than most space stations. As they walked through the ship, Quintel's trained diplomatic mind tried to catalog what she was seeing. The Teguk had residential districts with tree-lined streets and parks where children played. There were shopping areas, schools, theaters, and restaurants. It was a complete society, one that had thrived during centuries in the emptiness of space. "How many people live here?" she asked, unable to hide her amazement. 50,000 when we left Earth, Kang replied. "Now we're close to 70,000. Life finds a way, even in the dark." They entered a conference room that looked out over vast hydroponic gardens. Food plants from a dozen worlds grew in perfect rows, tended by humans who had learned to make life bloom anywhere. In the distance, Quintal could see children playing in areas that seemed to have their own weather systems. Dr. Kim Yuna joined them, carrying data tablets that hummed with stored information. "Ambassador, we want you to understand what humanity offers to the galaxy. Not conquest, not domination, but knowledge." She activated a holographic display that showed the human journey through space. Images of impossible challenges flashed before Quintal's eyes. Humans fighting energy beings in the heart of dying stars. Scientists working to cure plagues that attacked the very concept of life. Engineers building machines that could manipulate the basic forces of reality. Every crisis made us stronger, Dr. Kim explained. Every impossible challenge taught us something new. We learned to survive anywhere, to adapt to anything. Quintal watched in fascination as the display showed human technology that defied everything she knew about science. Fusion reactors powered by controlled black holes, computers that used consciousness itself as processing power, materials made from compressed space and time. "What do you want from us?" she finally asked. Captain Kang's answer was simple. Recognition of our right to return to Earth, reparations for the unprovoked attack on our ship, and acknowledgement that humanity has a place in galactic civilization. The ambassador considered this. It seemed reasonable, almost too reasonable. And if the Alliance refuses? Dr. Kim smiled and touched a control. Outside the conference room, in the emptiness of space, matter began to collect and compress. In seconds, a new star blazed to life, burning with clean nuclear fire. Then, just as easily, it went out, leaving only darkness. "We don't want war," Dr. Kim said quietly. "But we're no longer the helpless refugees who left a dying world centuries ago. We've become something the galaxy has never seen before." Quintal left the Teguk with her mind reeling. In her report to the Alliance Council, she would write words that would change the course of galactic history. They are not conquerors. They are not invaders. They are teachers who have learned lessons we cannot even imagine, and we would be fools to make enemies of them. But in the military command centers of the Alliance, General Krexvar was already making different plans. The proud Vorthak warrior could not accept that any species might be superior to his own. He began gathering the largest military fleet in galactic history, determined to crush the humans before they could threaten Vorthak dominance. As the Teguk continued its journey toward home, Captain Kang stood in his ready room and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them, Earth was waiting, and somewhere else forces were gathering that would test whether humanity's new strength was enough to protect them from a galaxy that feared what it couldn't understand. The real test was about to begin. The stars looked different now. Captain Kang Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the massive Earthship Teguk, watching distant suns through the viewport. His weathered face showed the marks of 3 decades in deep space. Metal implants along his temple glowed softly, connecting his mind to the ship's systems. "Sir, we're picking up signals ahead," said Lieutenant Park Min-ho from his station. The young officer's fingers danced across holographic controls. Multiple ships. They looked like military vessels. Kang nodded slowly. After 300 years, they had finally returned to known space. The last time humans had been here, Earth was dying. A massive asteroid was about to destroy their homeworld. In desperation, Earth's governments built 12 huge colony ships and sent 50,000 people on each one into the darkness between stars. The galaxy had watched humanity scatter and disappear. Most alien species assumed humans were gone forever, just another dead race that couldn't save itself. But they were wrong. "Captain, incoming transmission," Park reported. His voice was tense. The main screen flickered, showing the face of an alien creature. Its skin was deep purple, with 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Sharp teeth filled its mouth as it spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Unknown vessel, this is Scout Captain Veltar of the Vorthak Empire. You have entered Alliance space without permission. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded." Kang smiled slightly. The same arrogance he remembered from the old stories. The Helix Alliance controlled most of known space. 17 different alien species working together under the leadership of the powerful Vorthak Empire and the calculating Nexari Collective. They saw themselves as the rightful rulers of the galaxy. "Open a channel," Kang ordered. The alien's 4 eyes widened when Kang's image appeared on his screen. "This is Captain Kang Do-hyun of the Earth colonial ship Teguk. We seek safe passage to reclaim our ancestral system." For a moment, Veltar was speechless. Then his expression changed to one of disgust. "Humans, impossible. Your species died out centuries ago when you destroyed your own planet." "We survived," Kang replied calmly. "And we've learned much during our time away." Veltar's laugh was harsh. "You're flying in an old rust bucket. Surrender now and we might let you live as servants to your betters." Around the Teguk, more Alliance ships appeared. Sleek warships with glowing energy weapons aimed at the human vessel. There were 20 of them, each one large enough to destroy a small moon. Their plasma cannons began to charge, casting bright light across space. Kang looked around his bridge. His crew remained calm even though they were heavily outnumbered. These weren't the desperate refugees who had fled Earth 3 centuries ago. These were their descendants, forged by trials no alien species could imagine. "Sir, should we raise shields?" asked Park. "No need," Kang replied. "Let them see what 300 years in the void has taught us." The Alliance ships opened fire at once. Brilliant streams of plasma energy, quantum torpedoes and particle beams struck the Taeguk from all directions. The alien weapons could have melted through the strongest materials known to galactic science. Nothing happened. The human ship didn't even slow down. The deadly energy weapons simply disappeared when they touched its hull. Like raindrops hitting hot steel, the Taeguk continued moving forward completely undamaged. On the Alliance ships, alarms began ringing. Veltar stared at his screens in shock. "Impossible. Our sensors show no shields, no energy barriers. How are they absorbing our fire?" Kang touched a control on his chair. "Lieutenant Park, disable their flagship's engines." "Minimal force, yes sir," Park replied. His hands moved across his controls with practiced ease. A thin beam of golden light shot out from the Taeguk. It was unlike any weapon the aliens had ever seen. Instead of the crude destructive force they were used to, this was precise beyond belief. The beam touched the Alliance flagship's massive engine section for less than a second. The huge warship suddenly went dead in space. Its engines were completely gone, surgically removed without damaging anything else. The crew was unharmed, but their ship was helpless. "What kind of weapon was that?" Veltar whispered, his voice filled with fear. "The kind you develop when you have nowhere to run," Kang answered. "When the only choice is to evolve or die." In the depths of the Taeguk, Chief Science Officer Dr. Kim Yuna watched the encounter from her laboratory. The brilliant woman had spent her entire life pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Around her, advanced machines hummed quietly, working with technologies that would seem like magic to the Alliance. "Captain," she said through the ship's communication system, "I'm reading panic responses from all Alliance vessels. Their crews are terrified." Kang wasn't surprised. During their long journey through space, humans had faced challenges that would have destroyed most species. They had fought energy beings that attacked minds directly. They had survived plagues that rewrote DNA. They had learned to manipulate reality itself in regions of space where the laws of physics broke down. Each trial had made them stronger. Each impossible challenge had taught them something new. Now they possessed knowledge that the galaxy's greatest civilizations couldn't even dream of. "Alliance vessels are withdrawing," Park reported. "They're broadcasting emergency signals on all frequencies." Through space, the 20 warships that had seemed so threatening just minutes before were now fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. They had come expecting to easily crush what they thought was a primitive refugee ship. Instead, they had encountered something that made their most advanced technology look like stone tools. Kang stood up from his command chair and walked to the viewport. In the distance, he could see the pale blue dot that had once been humanity's home. Earth was calling her children back, and nothing in the galaxy would stop them from answering. "Set course for Sol system," he ordered. "It's time to go home." Behind them, the Alliance fleet continued to run, carrying word of humanity's return to every corner of known space. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they had written off as extinct had not only survived, but had become something far greater than they had ever been before. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun.